The Maputo Development Corridor is an it's a freight and logistics corridor initially aimed at just connecting South Africa and Mozambique, but ultimately the people of Mpumalanga started asking a pertinent question: what is life after the road? Because initially it was just conceptualized as a connecting road between Gauteng to Mozambique via our province. So what the provincial government has done in the last 3 years was to begin to look into constraints to growth on the corridor that's making it not perform up to its optimum. And we started looking into issues like ICT, transport and logistics, local economic development, as well as softer issues like language and cultural cooperation. So basically, the provincial government's approach to the regional tourism economy is strong integration and cooperation with the peoples of Mozambique and Swaziland, extending to the sub-region, working very, very closely with the provinces of Limpopo, Gauteng, and KwaZulu-Natal. Mr. Dladla, well, we might not be able to offer people the Durban beachfront or the Cape Town beachfront, but actually from where you're sitting, the Mozambique and the Maputo beachfront is 140 kilometers away. Add that up to the 300 kilometers from Johannesburg, it's still nearer, and I'm not competing with Gauteng for the tourism spend, it's still nearer to drive from Johannesburg to the beach of Maputo than to drive from Johannesburg to the Durban beachfront. So actually we've got a beachfront that we can claim as part of the southern region. So in addition to the Kruger Pago offering the Mozambican beachfront, on transport, colleagues, the earlier discussion was speaking about how train. And there's been discussions about the best investment we could do. Well, Mpumalanga currently does not necessarily have the best rail network. But in the last 2 years, we did a rail master plan for the province and started saying that we would do two things with the rail. We would do rail sub-corridors that are focusing on the metro service, which is your day-to-day passenger service for people going to work, looking into the northeastern corridor, which is from Palabora up to Nelspruit, the capital, as well as from Nelspruit on the western corridor towards Swaziland. But in the main line, we went into Transnet and said that we want a fair share of the cake. We're at a stage whereby we would recapitalize in the next 2 years 4 stations on the main line, that is on the N4, which would be Witbank, Waterval-Boven, Nelspruit, and Komatipoort. Komatipoort would be an international passenger line. Currently, colleagues traveling from South Africa to Mozambique have to stop at the border post, come out of the train, clears, and then goes on the other side and clear customs again. Now, those are the 4 big rail projects that we're looking into, and also targeted at cargo. The N4 toll road, and I hope that some of you drove right through from Gauteng and you did not necessarily have to fly. I hope that you've seen how the infrastructure has become, except that the toll fees are quite tall, but generally it's one of the best recent toll network in the country, and we want rail to complement it. Mr. Ndabeni has already spoken about the Moloto rail corridor, which is literally from Pretoria, Suabuza, Kamhlanga, connecting with Palabora in the Limpopo side. So we're basically also looking into a $500 million investment in a rail corridor of a network that the government is already sponsoring at about R500 million a year in terms of bus and taxi subsidization. So we're going to try to say a fair share of that money must go into long-term investment into rail. And the National Ministry of Transport has bought into that. And our Transnet, our rail operator Transnet has bought into that. And we hope that with the energy of the new chief executive officer in both Transnet and Telkom will be able to crack it on both the ICT and the rail part. But also importantly is the recapitalization of the Libombo-Rusano-Garcia border post on the South African border towards Mozambique. It used to be the most congested, troublesome border post. And those of you that are exporters would know that you are actually forced to go through the port of Durban, which is also becoming very congested, very delayed. And for some of you, particularly in the tourism industry, you cannot afford a 2-week stoppage waiting for port clearance in the sea-based ports. But you would understand that currently the port of Maputo itself, it's underutilized. And the main constraint has been access to rail, which is the part we're sorting out on the rail, as well as border issues, which the Limpopo-Rusano-Garcia border post has sorted out. So you are looking into new investment into transport and logistics that will literally clear out all your all your blockages. Mr. Dladla has already spoken about the university, because to be able to run your industry like you are going to need the skills in the province, and those are soft skills that you need urgently. Those are people that need to train, and you would understand that the province has gotten a green light to proceed with the Mpumalanga University. It's not a provincial university, it's a national university in Mpumalanga. So for the fact that we're calling it Mpumalanga does not necessarily mean there's a small little university in the middle of a bushveld called the Kruger. So it's actually a national university in Mpumalanga. And other things, including a recapitalization of our FET colleges, as well as one simple matter that we actually never really took cognizance of: language. Working with the Mozambican counterparts, we discovered that a lot of South African businesses could just not enter the Mozambican market because they were not Portuguese speaking. And we started saying that let us just teach Mpumalanga business people Portuguese. And the first intake, 67 SMMEs came up and said, we just want to be able to say bon dia or obrigado to our Mozambican counterparts who do business. And it's beginning to work quite well. And I think that for the tourism industry, with that kind of a market, you are going to need that. So we're also putting in infrastructure around language training, complementing the current public education network of language training, particularly Wits University and University of Cape Town. But colleagues, and I will not be long, the other issue has been the issue of local government. And most of you are going to be investing in local spaces, because I always say that there is no investment space called province. Ultimately, you're going to go into municipalities, you're going to have issues about whether there are regulatory constraints to growth, whether they are administrative, and whether they are political. And before I say this, I'm not sure whether my MEC Mokoena has left. He used to be former MEC for local government and cooperative governance, about the state of local government. As a public servant, I probably should be finding a much more diplomatic way of saying it. But yesterday, the Sunday papers showed the state of public service protests in the country in terms of percentage. And what did we discover? Mpumalanga was only contributing 7% of the current local government unrest. So we're not actually the worst place to invest in. With Gauteng, with KZN topping the state of public sector unrest, well, the press, with due respect to my colleagues here, have actually reported us as if a mayor gets fired every day. But actually it is not. Our local government system here has been more stabilized than a number of the provinces we have been putting our money into. And we're making it even better and better. Our local government turnaround strategies begin to say our local government will work. We've identified 22 local economic development nodes anchored on what we call sub-corridors, meaning all the necessary road you need off the N4 and of the N12. Whether it is the R55 towards Bethel, whether it is the R40 towards Barberton or to Bushbuck Ridge, or any other road to the R28 and the R32 to Leidenberg, we've identified 6 priority sub-corridors with 22 development nodes at a local government, focusing on industrial parks, business process outsourcing, public sector investment, as well as regional integration. We already scoped 3 industrial parks, petrochemicals in Secunda, automotives and manufacturing in Komati Port, and then the mining, metals and ferrochemicals in Witbank, the Middelburg area. So we're actually doing a number, and you'd need the services. A tourism operator might say, why do I need an industrial park? But wait until the day you build in a B&B and discover that you've got to wait for 6 months for your beds to arrive. So that's why you need the industrial support to actually put into some of these facilities. And we've got a number of other tourism supporting initiatives, like the film industry. The province has committed that we will set up a film office, firstly because we want to start collecting our royalties due for the film that you produce in our beautiful province for free. But secondly, because there is a growth in that industry. You switch on any of the top movies you see at the bottom of the title, shot in Mpumalanga. And because we do not have a film facilitation mechanism, we're losing a lot of investment in film, particularly in location investment. So, colleagues, with all that, I want to say that the province is now committed to probably the first province to follow the National Department of Economic Development and started a provincial growth path. The Mpumalanga Provincial Growth Path, with the 6 drivers that MEC spoke about, will literally be focusing on 3 key principles, which is investment, partnership, growth for jobs. And that's basically what we're offering to this conference.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.